Hello once again. Welcome to the program. I am Suren. Today, I would like to continue with the program based upon my autobiography and tell you a little bit more about my own situation with my own experiences and see if it can be of some benefit to somebody else, not to fall into the same trap. Remember, I was telling you that shortly after I received yet another message from him, my brother, where he wrote that I should know how much I had hurt him with that image posted on social media. And until it was removed, he was going to be no longer available, although I had removed it already, and had previously written several messages telling him how much I loved him as my brother, asking how he was. He never replied. Obviously, he was angry and resentful towards me, like many others have been. He had previously repeatedly been telling me that he would never break the link, but this latter attitude was quite a concern. I waited for a long time, well over a month, but still heard nothing, leaving me to wonder how people can change so quickly. I contacted his sons over the internet to tell them that their father was not communicating with me due to his possible resentment or anger over a perceived sin I had committed by putting a childhood image on Facebook, which he demanded that I remove as it was apparently hurting him. Otherwise, he was not going to talk to me anymore. Although I removed that image, he still did not correspond with me, and I decided to give him another month. If there was no response, I was going to completely remove myself from the social media as far as he was concerned, and their father would not need to worry about me any longer. His first son was surprised, wondering why he was pushing everybody away, whereas his younger son advised me that I could still write to my brother via messenger. Maybe he did not understand my written Turkish. How strange it was that I seemed to be surrounded by no real friends, but rather haters of what I stood for. For a moment, it felt as if I was meant to have no one as friends. Maybe I was cursed by the so-called righteous ones, praying for my demise. And that's true. I could almost accept this as real, for their prayers were the most evil wishes under the disguise of righteousness, and I honestly believe his current partner was manipulating and controlling him. I was going through hell at this time, for the house we were living in was to be sold after about 2 years of our occupation in Stanley Street, Frankston, and we had to move out quickly. Again, my health was not the best at the time. I was suffering from a severe case of flu and an inflammation of my right ankle, which was extremely painful, but I had to do a lot of packing, heavy lifting, and shifting things to another house in Frankston North. It was tiresome and debilitating, although we did use a firm of so-called professional removalists. But they left us with big problems. I had no help from anybody, and Rosemary was not her best either. We hired a truck, needing to finish the removal ourselves. We still needed assistance when collecting my valuable manuscripts, books, and electronic goods from under the house, many of which were rotting or moldy due to possum damage, and basically having to dump them in the carport area of the new house, thus causing more destruction in a cold and extremely rainy period of the year. This made me feel flat and very sad. Who wouldn't be? Our clothing and bedding was also in a bad shape. But I was determined, as always, never to give up and make things good again while still teaching art on a voluntary basis and spending time with people who had no understanding of my circumstances, unable to grasp my need to do things, which made it very hard to cope. I also find it unacceptable not being able to find time to listen to music or to meditate. My son Claude had also been going through a stormy period in his life, as he said, after educational neglect during his time with the witnesses prior to his disfellowshipment and divorce from his Jehovah's Witness wife. I hope I was able to help him a little, and I am sure he will be successful in his endeavors, but as he can clearly see, any connection with the cultist system he was a part of during his childhood and much of his early adulthood only hinders every possible outcome, as it is with a large number of people worldwide, including me. It seems my life has turned into a massive disaster zone whilst suffering pain, needing to recover, while having to move out during the coldest and rainiest days of the year in Melbourne. The additional emotional pain I was inflicted with by my so-called daughter in Perth and her offspring, who were incessantly accusing me of wrongdoing without listening to what I said, without listening to reason, and not knowing anything, not even wanting to know anything about me. Totally anti-me, just the same as my ex-wife seemed to delight them, hurting me without any respect. Birgit interfered, not disciplining or teaching her daughter, instead blocking me on social media, where all the conversation and needless argumentation took its toll. I had enough of their ungrounded, hateful accusations of me, as recommended by Jehovah's Witnesses, obviously, and told her daughter to shut her gaping mouth, for she had now rendered herself into nothing. She was supposedly taking sides with her grandmother, Magda, and I had no alternative but end that ugly argument on her side. People from the US and England were also reading them and responding to me, and it was becoming very embarrassing. Since Birgit has blocked me without any respect, as far as I am concerned, there is no link left to consider, for every one of them follows the most evil will of Jehovah's Witnesses and their cult. I have no doubt that Birgit expects me to apologize to her daughter, who was extraordinarily abusive to me, for as far as she is concerned, despite all their disrespectfulness towards me, they always have to be correct, and I can only be wrong. Even an imbecilic idiot, unable to match the allegedly extraordinary intelligence of her daughter. I did not desire to be treated like the lowest kind of animal, as per Magda's delight and hatred. However, the highlight of the year 2016 was my brother's unique attitude towards me. But I forgive all the ill thought and stupidity I was subjected to, and move on. It seems my severely inflicted children will never change, and neither will their mother, who has certainly achieved her objectives very skillfully and successfully, as per the will of her Jehovah's Witness bosses. I am unsure about my brother, and I am not sure about those others who pretended to be my friends. But when they discovered I was not dancing to their inharmonious noise, discarded me, I shall never consider them as a loss, but rather as an experience one could well do without. I can only thank them for teaching me that not everything which shineth is gold. Nobody likes to fail, but failure is an essential part of life and learning. If your uniform isn't dirty, you haven't been in the game, says Ben Bernanke. I am not happy about accusing anyone in any circumstances of wrongdoing, particularly those with no intention of ill thought. However, my personal experiences regarding the known characteristics of someone like my ex-partner are correct and true. My discoveries and theories are not meant to be negative in nature or geared to downgrade anyone. They are not spoken as a character reference, but purely as an observation in the light of knowledge gained throughout the years. It is a study under scrutiny and discovery about Jehovah's Witnesses and their influence on people. Throughout the years, my ex-wife had been completely reorganized and recreated according to their religious, cultist undertakings. She developed certain characteristics and turned completely anti-me under her faithful brother's strict control. Knowing her current and now never changeable characteristics of utter hatred, which she can never recognize as such, she clearly demonstrated her intentions when she asked the young ones to put viruses into her son's and my telephone so that we would be unable to communicate. Just think about it. Remember, she also often told Claude she would rather prefer he did not see his father, let alone talk to him, due to his being wicked, following the ways of the devil, for not accepting Jehovah's teachings in obedience to the governing body, and for being shunned under the righteous judgment of their judicial committee, therefore becoming the rejected of God. However, I shall repeat once more that there is always a reaction for every action. That is how nature works. Because their beloved mother had been advising some people who knew Claude to make sure to hinder him in talking to or even meeting me, I am convinced by observing his latest trends and analyzing the words spoken by him and his current lady friend that my observation is correct. For example, her words to Claude in regard to his parents were that she would rather have nothing to do with them. But after visiting his mother in Perth and later going to Cairns with her, she declared that she would love to meet his mother again, for she was cool. On the other hand, she seems to strenuously discourage Claude from communicating with me. This scenario is worth considering, at least psychologically. One can easily see the familiar trend in regard to this divine advice provided by Magda. In this instance, I cannot see any reason to think otherwise, for his current girlfriend displays similarities to Magda's wishes. Recent trends unfortunately help me see it clearly. Analyzing his closer involvement with her and keeping away for a considerable length of time since Christmas last, Claude has proven this influence to be the reality, although he may not be able to recognize it. Help him keep away from this evil man. If this is sadly correct, I would like to ask what the absolute evil is. I only hope that I am wrong in regard to Claude's current state with his lady friend. Unfortunately, observed trends do not declare otherwise. Again, it seems to be dictated by Jehovah's Witnesses. Look at this new trend. His current girlfriend, who later became his wife at this stage, would not allow him to correspond with his father. But, as she expresses, it is okay to talk to his mother. I doubt if Claude can see the point. As I said, he had kept away since Christmas 2016, but during February 2017, when we met over a cup of coffee, he informed me that he had moved into his girlfriend's home, and soon after went to Perth to see his mother. At the time of writing, I have not seen or heard from him since. He may simply be very busy. However, somebody is most certainly following the ungodly advice from Jehovah's Witnesses, the uninspired man advising my ex-partner what to do and how to live. Remember, they now humbly claim that they are fallible and can err. Ever since being shunned, I asked, does God really need a Jehovah's Witness organization? If so, where in the Bible is it indicated? Considering the dragon written about in the book of Revelations, does it perhaps symbolize the witness organization? This dragon has 7 heads, and interestingly, the governing body had also comprised of 7 mature-aged men in charge of the witnesses worldwide. Obviously, the so-called governing body of a few selfish men are the only decision makers at their headquarters, claiming to be representing the stars, seals, angels, and candles as written about within the pages of the book of dreams called Revelations. What about their deeds, which speak loud and clear? Observe the misery they have caused and are still causing all around the world. Unhappiness, family breakdowns, shunning, suicides, child abuse. You heard it correct? Child abuse. And the list goes on increasing every single day. Hoping not to sound like preaching, I would like to analyze certain texts in the Bible as an observation of historic facts and anomalies, making comparisons with cultist viewpoints which have ultimately controlled my so-called family throughout the years. Revelations chapter 12, verse 3 speaks of the great dragon with 7 heads and 7 crowns. Interestingly, they have since added another to their number. Maybe later they will add one more, to disguise. Maybe they are distancing themselves from that dragon. Revelations chapter 12, verse 7 speaks of a war in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon fought back, and his angels prevailed not. Neither was their place found any more in heaven. Revelations chapter 12, verse 9. The old serpent called the devil and Satan, which deceiveth the whole world, is cast out into the earth. On the other hand, maybe one could easily consider the Watchtower Society as comparable to Babylon the Great. According to the Bible, one cannot go to the Father in any other way, but only through Christ. It does not say through the Jehovah's Witnesses organization. Nowhere in the Holy Scriptures can one find any reference to the witness organization being the only mediator between men and the Father. Baptism in their organization is like signing your life away through a contract with them, and not with God or Christ. Furthermore, the witnesses do not seem to hear themselves when they preach, for they are in reality not glorifying the Father, but global genocide. James 8, 22 and 23. Luke 6:36 advises the readers not to judge. John 5, 21 to 25 explains that they cannot hear what the real shepherd says, and the Father does not judge. I recommend that they read 2 Corinthians chapter 12, where one discovers great wisdom in regard to one God, one Spirit, but many gifts, similar to a body with many parts, yet functioning as one. It also advises the followers of Christ that by being baptized by the same Spirit, we are one. The witnesses interpret it differently and deliberately in order to lead the baptized to accept their governing body as the only mediator between God and men. I will say it again, that the Jehovah's Witnesses I came across throughout the years literally destroyed my family, like many others around the world, and stole part of my youth and always twisted their words. They did not know the difference between what true love and their hateful shunning policies were about, and certainly did not realize that their principles could not emanate from the loving God they claim to worship, for their God is not a God of love. If their God is not a God of love, are they erroneously worshiping an anti-God? By shunning without thorough knowledge of the deed sinners have supposedly committed, they purported to know that they were avoiding any hindrance to God's blessings on their governing body, whereas the reality is completely different. By their deeds, they are in fact blocking God's true love. That is, if this kind of God truly exists. According to Christian wisdom, God loves all mankind without exception, and his love is unconditional, unlike the witnesses' belief. Furthermore, by reinventing the Bible, they are committing a great sin, for it is written that no one should ever add or extract anything from God's word. People of all beliefs have defended their concepts for centuries, despite all the evidence showing that they might be wrong, for they did not want to appear erroneous, nor could they afford to be classified as false. But the consequences have been felt throughout the history of mankind. Perhaps they needed to learn to be a little less fanatical with their beliefs and passions, knowing that humanity constantly advances with knowledge and discoveries, for their needs and wants change all the time. A little tolerance and patience go a lot further. Unfortunately, this is where humanity has dismally failed. And still continuing with the same traditions. This is not a negative assessment, for it is the evidence, the reality. Only recently I was asked by a number of caring friends, now that 2 of them are in their 40s, how do your children see you after so many years of separation? My unbiased and non-judgmental answer to that is this: as far as every one of them is concerned, even right now, I am a failure. Why is it so, you may ask? They have all been subjected to the most evil training and brainwashing from their infant years, where I was considered as the rejected of a supreme deity, Jehovah, after my so-called disfellowshipment by the witnesses, who were the only associates of my ex-wife. They all remained extremely judgmental towards me, as they are towards the entire world and everything it stands for. The Jehovah's Witnesses hate the world. My children never consider anything positive about me, my knowledge and experiences. In reality, always seeking to find any perceived fault to complain about. Unfortunately, this is the only thing they have learned, and it remains their judgmental belief, which they have been brought up with. I really long for the day they appreciate anything about me as their father. But it seems to be a very distant dream. As far as I can logically see, even after so many years of Jehovah's Witness-induced separation, it never ceases to amaze me when I ponder on the times of my childhood when I was often chastised and criticized by my close relatives, cousins, and father about the wrongs I was doing. Later, in my adult years, this trend continued by my ex-wife and her associates, condemning me and even at times trying to embarrass me about anything, be it my clothing, my dieting, or the way I combed my hair, thus making me feel as if I was a failure. Jehovah's Witnesses were the worst of them all, followed by my completely unwanted encounters with people like Damon. And now the tradition seems to continue. Even my clothing is naively disliked, unjustly embarrassing me in front of people, obliging me to respond. With this, I shall end today's talk, and I shall meet you again by the next episode. Until then, keep well, keep smiling, and be happy. Thank you.